Introducing a completely redesigned experience that you can sense. And that senses you. The new Dell Latitude laptops bring your work closer to you.
Tonight, deadly day. A fisherman and scuba diver die in separate sea tragedies. A man charged over a dramatic police chase through Melbourne's east. Exiled Labor MP Will Fowles breaks his silence over sexual assault allegations ahead of his return to Parliament. President Joe Biden's ominous warning as the US launches revenge strikes in the Middle East. Melbourne scientists shining a light on a more effective way to detect cancer. And an exclusive fly-on-the-wall look at the overseas trip helping this star hawk get back in action.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Dougal Beatty.
Good evening. 2 people have died in separate ocean tragedies off the Victorian coast. The first, a fisherman who became trapped under his boat after it capsized in rough seas at Barwon Heads. A second man lost his life while scuba diving near the Rye Pier. Amber Johnston reports.
This part of the surf coast is usually bustling with beachgoers. Today, it was out of bounds. This 5-metre tinny battered and covered in remnants from the ocean floor after it was overwhelmed in 8-foot swell at Barwon Heads. A 66-year-old fisherman from Anglesea drowning after the boat capsized and he became trapped underneath.
We believe he was entangled in some rope or possibly the anchor roping, and he wasn't able to free himself.
He left the Ocean Grove boat ramp to go fishing with a work friend around 6:30 this morning. As they crossed the sandbar, they were swamped by waves up to 4 metres high. When their boat flipped, his friend, a 61-year-old man from Mauriac, managed to climb on top, unable to free his mate he knew was trapped beneath him.
He was returned to shore by 3 jet skis that went out to assist. These particular men were in the right place at the right time.
Experienced boatie Josh Tromp also braved the monstrous swell. He said he saw the men parked at the boat ramp before they headed out.
Super sad, super you work all day, all week, get out for a little bit of fun, and unfortunately something like this happens to somebody. It's horrible.
Locals say 3 boats in total overturned this morning, conditions they haven't seen all summer.
There's a lot of waves out there off the point at Barwon Heads, which is a little bit unusual.
Usually this time of day the waves seem to calm down a bit, but it just seemed to be so choppy.
Seeing the white caps out there is sort of a bit of a sign that it's pretty choppy.
Amber Johnston, 9 News.
The tragedy comes as a timely reminder to be extra vigilant on the water with scorching conditions forecast for tomorrow. Madeline Spark joins me now for more. And Maddie, it's expected to be the hottest day we've had this summer.
That's right, it is, Dougal. So far, the city's highest maximum has been 34, but it's forecast to be 4 degrees hotter than that tomorrow. And unfortunately, the heat will combine with gusty northerly winds to deliver a dangerous bushfire risk. The Mallee and Wimmera will be under an extreme fire danger rating with total fire bans in place, a high rating for most other districts, moderate through Gippsland. The hot northerly winds will strengthen ahead of an approaching cool change, and that change is now expected to arrive a little later. Melbourne will have to wait until midnight to get the cooling southerly breezes, with temperatures set to drop quite dramatically after that. I'll have more on our burst of summer heat later in the bulletin, Dougal.
OK, thanks, Maddie. We'll see you soon. A wild police pursuit has come to a crashing end in Dandenong. As Mia Taekwin reports, a 32-year-old man is accused of carjacking a Porsche and taking it on a joyride across Melbourne's eastern suburbs.
Swarming a stolen Porsche, police take down an accused carjacker. A busy intersection in Dandenong at a standstill as a chase comes to a chaotic end.
The next thing, the car's on the footpath and wiped out the water fountain and then the telephone booth, and that was it.
Had a mask on, and then he ran out of the car.
The man was spotted driving erratically on Canterbury Road in Blackburn around 2:30 yesterday afternoon. Hot on his heels, police tracked the vehicle to Dandenong with the help of the Air Wing. Officers deploying stop sticks on Foster Street just over an hour later. But police say the driver continued to speed through city streets before a patrol car forced him off the road. He's now facing a slew of charges, including dangerous driving and theft of a motor vehicle. The matter was briefly mentioned in court this afternoon, where it was revealed the 32-year-old suffers from depression and was withdrawing from heroin and meth. The court also heard he suffered a panic attack while in custody. He was remanded and will face court tomorrow.
It's pretty scary and it's not a safe area here.
There's a lot of foot traffic there. That's a thing. I was lucky there was no one there. But just look, I'm happy that no one got killed or hit.
Mia Tyquin, 9 News.
A motorcyclist has died in Melbourne's north. The man was riding in the early hours of this morning when he crashed near a roundabout at Craigieburn just before 3:30. Paramedics tried to save him, but he died at the scene. Exiled Ringwood MP Will Fowles has broken his silence after police cleared him of sexual assault allegations. Now independent, he says he has a golden opportunity for change in Parliament, despite the Premier refusing to roll out the welcome mat. Laura Turner has the latest.
From the political wilderness, Will Fowles emerges adamant he has a future.
It's taken 6 months, but we now all, I think, should accept the outcome of that process and move on.
It's been 6 months since a female staffer made sexual assault allegations against him and he was forced to resign as a member of the Parliamentary Labor Party.
It's been a challenging period. I don't think that's going to surprise anyone, but I'm not here to reflect or dwell upon that period of my life.
He now wants to improve how Parliament deals with complaints like the one levelled against him.
I think there is an opportunity to make sure that the processes are codified and rigorous.
Now police have closed the investigation without charges, but Premier Jacinta Allen hasn't welcomed him back to Spring Street. Will Fowles will return here to Parliament on Tuesday. What isn't clear is whether the woman who made the allegations against him will be here working too. Either way, the Premier has said she will continue to support her. Reissuing a statement from earlier this week, the Premier said the well-being of staff and their right to a safe workplace is not negotiable and we will always act on any allegations of a serious nature. The complainant will continue to be supported and their privacy must be respected at this time. But such support could have legal recourse.
He may well look at the Human Rights Charter in Victoria and discrimination, because he's essentially being discriminated on the basis of his having been participating in a police investigation which is now closed.
Meantime, Fowles hasn't ruled out attempting a return to the Labor Party room in the future, insisting it's back to business.
Well, I'm very welcome here in the electorate of Ringwood, and I'll be continuing to do the work for my constituents who have offered me great support right the way through.
Not all of them support him, though. Despite the fact police have cleared them, many female constituents haven't.
And I just don't think that paints a good picture for the community.
You don't want that in your government, in your local government or any government. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Laura Turner, 9 News.
There's been further escalation in the Middle East, with the United States launching retaliatory strikes on Iranian-backed targets in Iraq and Syria. Alison Petrowski tells us President Joe Biden is warning this is just the beginning.
The United States strikes back, lighting up the night in Qaim, Iraq.
Allahu Akbar.
Secondary explosions tear through the sky, and a series of blasts on the horizon in Ayash, Syria. Simultaneous attacks aimed to take down assets of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. More than 85 targets were hit over 30 minutes in 7 main locations, 4 in Syria, 3 in Iraq, striking command and control operations, intelligence centres, weapons facilities and bunkers. Senior US officials say they were carefully selected to avoid civilian casualties and carried out using more than 125 precision munitions delivered by multiple aircraft, including long-range B-1 bombers flown in from the US mainland.
This wasn't just a message-sending routine tonight. This was about degrading capability.
The strikes were in response to the deaths of 3 US troops killed in a drone strike in Jordan on Monday. Earlier today, Joe Biden carried out the most sombre of duties, overseeing the dignified transfer of the 3 fallen Army reservists back onto American soil, meeting with their grieving family members behind closed doors.
Every interaction that I have had with the president thus far has been very personable. He's showed so much compassion and care for us and with what we're dealing with.
In a statement following the strikes, the president said, "If you harm an American, we will respond. Our response began today. It will continue at times and places of our choosing."
While the US response is expected to come in waves, the White House has confirmed it will not strike within Iran's borders as President Biden tries to walk a tightrope between retaliation and de-escalation.
For days, Iran has denied responsibility. Preempting the strikes, their president had warned, "We will not start a war, but if a cruel force wants to bully us, the Islamic Republic of Iran will give a strong response." Iran may not be looking for a war, but it is ready for one. Senior US officials with this message: "It began tonight, but it will not end tonight." At the White House, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Out of control, this P-plater careers into parked cars before slamming into a gas main on a residential street in Sunshine North, causing a leak. The driver was travelling down a hill when he spun out on Wattlebird Court around 7 this morning. Residents were told to stay indoors as crews worked to make the area safe.
He's probably lucky with the gas leak that there wasn't an explosion.
He wouldn't have been slow because I'd imagine you probably take that corner at 10-20 k's an hour, and he's done a pretty good job.
The 20-year-old behind the wheel was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Labor's proposal for stage 3 tax cuts will be introduced to Parliament next week, and the signs are it won't be an easy sell. Some economists are calling for negative gearing to be abolished to help ease the housing and cost of living crisis. Claudia Vidoljak has more.
Stepping up and lining up.
What could go wrong?
The Prime Minister campaigning in the crucial by-election battleground, Dunkley. But on the green, his aim was off. Anthony Albanese hoping he's more on target when it comes to winning over voters as he fights to retain the seat of Dunkley.
There's a 6.2% margin. There's a 7% average swing against governments in by-elections. That's just called science and maths.
Confident as the federal government faces its first electoral test of its proposed changes to stage 3 tax cuts.
To make sure that every Australian gets a tax cut, not just some. That, I think, Australians understand in their guts that that's fair.
But as for whether the PM thinks prospective first home owners have it fair when it comes to negative gearing...
What we're doing is making a difference on housing.
Providing little clarity today despite coming out strong in the past.
So is negative gearing now a good thing?
Negative gearing is a good thing.
Will you consider revisiting negative gearing policy ahead of the election?
No.
So you're completely ruling it out?
I think that was a pretty clear answer.
Will you revisit it after that?
I think that's a pretty clear answer.
As Australians struggle with affordability, some economists are going as far as calling for negative gearing to be abolished, with modelling revealing the move could lead to a 5% drop in house prices.
It's not going to make an enormous difference, and it can't be the only tool that you use, but it needs to be part of a package.
We need to be very careful about big changes and big tax reform that has unintended consequences on the most vulnerable.
Claudia Vidoljak, 9 News.
Now with a look ahead to sport, here's Alicia Muling.
Thanks so much, Dougal. Coming up tonight, we go global with a young hawk. Our exclusive look inside CJ's mission to get back on the park.
Obviously being out for the season, it was like, oh geez, I've got to sort out something here.
Tonight, a star put on ice as the Aussies head up to Sydney, one up. Heartbreak for the Socceroos, their Asian Cup dream shattered in the dying minutes. And the Australian punter eyeing Super Bowl history. That's all coming up for you a little later, Dougal.
Looking forward to that. Alicia, thank you. Well, when we return, St Kilda Road raid, 2 Porsches and $200,000 worth of drugs seized. Plus a young boy bitten by a dingo while camping on Gari. And the Pokemon fans hoping to play their cards right to become world champion.
This week, a 9 News special event.
A 3-part investigation into our youth crime crisis.
The home invasions and helpless victims.
I don't think it's going to get better. The reckless behaviour for social media clicks. It is extremely dangerous.
Were you showing off in front of your mates?
And the communities taking the law into their own hands.
We're looking after the residents' interests. We haven't had any home invasions.
Melbourne's youth crime crisis.
It's your news, 9 News. Starts Monday.
Two people have been charged with serious drug offences and had their Porsches seized by police. A man and woman were arrested on Thursday morning after a search warrant found more than $140,000 of cocaine. Tens of thousands of dollars of MDMA and ketamine were also collected. They'll face a commercial drug trafficking charge in April. There's been another dingo attack on Gari on Queensland's Fraser Coast, where a young boy has been bitten while holidaying with his family. Abby Gearin has the details for us. Abby, this is the fourth one so far this year.
It is, Dougal. It's understood this 70-year-old Sunshine Coast boy was playing with family on the beach around 9 o'clock last night when he was attacked, the dingo biting him on the lower abdomen. The drama unfolded at the Bowl Creek campground on the western side of Gari, formerly known as Fraser Island. A paramedic based there transported him to Kingfisher Bay Resort, where volunteer marine rescue crews were able to take him to the mainland in a stable condition for treatment at Hervey Bay Hospital.
The injuries were lacerations and bite marks, yes, which is unfortunately becoming quite regular on the island. And I think over time, as more and more people have interacted with the dingoes, they've become less and less scared of us.
You mentioned, Dougal, this little boy is now the fourth person to be bitten on Gari just this year alone. There's also been two other high-risk incidents which thankfully haven't resulted in injury, but Queensland Parks and Wildlife Rangers are now investigating.
All right, Abby Gearin, thank you. From one extreme to another, a Tesla with two people on board has plunged off a pier and into a freezing fjord in Oslo, Norway. The couple managed to escape, sitting on the roof of their car as it sank in the icy water. Fortunately, they were rescued by a floating sauna and were able to keep warm. A deathbed confession has solved a 50-year mystery in Japan. One of the world's most wanted criminals, Satoshi Kirishima, disappeared in the 1970s following accusations he belonged to a terror group involved in a series of bombings. At the age of 70, he's finally been revealed as living under an alias less than an hour from Tokyo. This week, he died of cancer, fulfilling his wish that his death certificate bear his real name. Well, the Pentagon has been forced to rebuff suggestions that Taylor Swift is at the centre of a government plot to re-elect Joe Biden. The right-wing conspiracy theory claims that the pop star's success and relationship with NFL player Travis Kelce is all part of a plan leading to Swift endorsing the Democratic candidate at the Super Bowl. The US government has now denied the allegations twice. After weeks of disruptive protests, French farmers have decided to go home. Union leaders are calling on them to lift roadblocks after the Prime Minister pledged to tighten import controls and make France more self-reliant with food. Industrial action is continuing in Belgium, where they're protesting over wages and bureaucratic meddling. Well, Pokemon is one of the most beloved franchises in the world, but for some, it's very serious business. Australia's best Pokemon trainers are battling it out in Melbourne this weekend, vying for a chance to compete at an international level. Nathan Curry joined them.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
If you want to be the very best, this is where you've got to go.
When you get to this tournament, everyone's got the good cards. There's no one person who has better cards than others.
Australia's top Pokemon trainers are competing in the Oceania Championships across 3 categories: trading cards, video game consoles and Pokemon Go.
Pressure's on now, the camera's on you.
Yeah, of course it is. That makes it more fun, right?
Even the youngest competitors and their parents take it very seriously.
He played in Brisbane, didn't do so well. That was his first comp. And second time round, he's got the knack of it.
How's he going today?
He's going all right. He's won one and lost one.
That's okay. And how are you going, Dad?
I'm tired.
Then there's the best of the best, the ones who travel the globe on the world tour, hoping to do it for a living.
Last weekend, I was in Liverpool in UK, got second out of 1,500 players or so. So it was a pretty big win. I walked away with 7,000 USD.
The aim is to qualify for the World Championships, which are being held in Hawaii later this year. There is $2 million of prize money at stake, as well as the chance to be known as the Pokemon World Champion. Henry Brand is a former world champ who's determined to get his title back. He's that big a deal in the Pokemon community, he even has fans.
It's stressful, man, especially when you get to the end, when you need to win a match to progress further.
The championships continue tomorrow and may unearth our next superstar. It's an obsession.
Xander, is it a way of life?
Yeah.
Nathan Curry, 9 News.
Well, as the mercury rises, Hillsville Sanctuary's 3 emus have found the perfect way to cool down. They delicately position themselves above their ponds before taking a dip, sometimes for up to half an hour. The big birds have no sweat glands, so anything to help drop their temperature is welcome relief. Well, after the break on 9 News, cancer detector, Melbourne scientists trialling a chemical that lights up tumours inside a patient's body. Tourists run for their lives, chased by a charging elephant. And Hollywood remembers Rocky star Carl Weathers.
9 News, brought to you by Australia's #1 selling vehicle, Ford Ranger.
There's hope surgeons will soon be able to find and remove cancers with greater accuracy. A molecule is being tested in Melbourne which makes tumours glow green under infrared light. Mark Santomartino explains.
Keyhole surgery helps patients recover quickly and avoid big scars, but relying on cameras and tiny instruments can make things harder for surgeons like Associate Professor Gavin Wright.
Problem is, we now have trouble finding tumours in the first place. And we may have to remove larger amounts of lung than necessary to be sure that we get that cancer out.
It's a problem he and the team at St Vincent's Hospital Melbourne think they can solve. Using a molecule designed to identify proteins in a lab, they've proven they can light up and see cancers like this, glowing fluorescent green inside a patient's body.
It's not meant to replace the good judgment of the surgeon. In many cases, it's there to be able to draw their attention to something else that they may otherwise miss.
The chemical, developed by Vergent Biosciences, has to be injected into a patient's body. It's been tested more than 50 times in Australia and involved in trials at the University of Pennsylvania, with the aim of completing a larger third and final trial by the end of this year.
We noted, by accident almost, that it was lighting up other cancers that had spread to the lungs. That we had thought initially to be lung cancer, but they turned out to be breast cancer, bowel cancer, etc. So, in fact, it appears it may have a much wider application.
The TGA and other regulators will still need to approve the technique, meaning Australia is at least 2 or 3 years away from surgeons using the cancer-hunting chemical more broadly.
Once we are able to demonstrate that the molecule is safe and effective, our goal is to expand this to other tumour types, such as colorectal, breast cancer, and possibly even prostate cancer.
Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
2 terrified tourists have run for their lives from a rampaging elephant in southern India. One stumbled and was almost trampled, but he quickly crawled off the road. It's understood the man had stopped to take photos with the animal in a national park. The United Nations has called Rafah a pressure cooker of despair as thousands more Palestinians flee south to the city on the Gaza-Egypt border. Hostilities in Khan Yunis are driving the displacement, with Israel announcing Rafah will be its next target. More than 1.4 million Gazans are sheltering there. In a centuries-old tradition, a groundhog in the US state of Pennsylvania has predicted an early start to spring. 10,000 people gathered at the largest celebration of its type in the country to watch club members reveal whether the famous animal has seen his shadow, indicating the length of winter. Known as Puxatawney Phil, the groundhog reportedly has a 40% accuracy rate. Carl Weathers, the American football hero turned movie star, has died aged 76. He'll be remembered for playing Rocky's rival Apollo Creed and alongside Adam Sandler in Happy Gilmore. Lauren Tomasi compiled this tribute.
First enemies, but eventually friends. Rocky Balboa side by side with Apollo Creed in the film which would cement Carl Weathers' place on the big screen.
The whole world's gonna see the real Apollo Creed. Lightning fast and hard to catch. No playing, no jiving, just business.
He then traded boxing gloves for army greens. Weathers working alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator.
Good old days. Yeah, like the good old days. Then how come you passed on Libya, huh? Oh, that wasn't my style. You got no style, Dutch, you know that.
Comic relief came in the form of Adam Sandler's handless golf coach in Happy Gilmore.
Damned alligator bit my hand off.
Oh, my God!
Yeah, tournament down in Florida. I hooked my ball in the rough down by the lake. Damned alligator just popped up.
And more recently, the actor took on a role in the Star Wars series The Mandalorian.
Mando, I just want them off my planet.
A 50-year screen career spanning more than 75 movies and TV shows. But before all that, he was just a kid from New Orleans with a passion for football that took him all the way to the NFL as a linebacker for the Oakland Raiders.
I've led a very lucky life because I've been able to achieve a lot of my childhood dreams.
When I'm finally laid in that place and they have on the tombstone all the things they did, we'll just have all my credits, man. That's all they care about. Yeah.
It's an impressive list, though.
It's pretty nice.
Carl Weathers' family confirmed the actor died in his sleep. We are deeply saddened. Carl was an exceptional human being who lived an extraordinary life. And from his co-star and dear friend, Sylvester Stallone.
And I'll never forget it. He was magic. And I was so fortunate to be part of his life. So, Apollo, keep punching.
It's always such a joy to provide entertainment for people who really enjoy what you do.
In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
200 cyclists have teamed up to raise vital funds for seriously ill and injured children and their families. Groups cycled on stationary bikes for 10 continuous hours today in St Kilda in the annual Ronald McDonald House Ride for Sick Kids. The event has collected more than $3.5 million over the last 13 years. Ahead in Melbourne's 9 News, under the hammer, a Kew home fetches more than $3 million. That and the rest of the day's auction results next. Plus how a new Melbourne hospital will give patients a peaceful stay. And the Victorian beach that's been named Australia's best. Taking a look at this week's auction results now, and 216 properties were sold according to Domain, which is part owned by Nine. That's a clearance rate of 65%. This Kew home was the most expensive, boasting 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It fetched just over $3.4 million. While the most affordable home was this 1-bedroom unit in Footscray. It sold for $180,000. Well, Taylor Swift is set to save Melbourne's major events reputation when she performs 3 mammoth shows at the MCG later this month. It's expected more than $1.2 billion will be injected into Victoria's economy over the weekend, with more than 85% of CBD accommodation already booked. Fans travelling from interstate are likely to spend around $1,000 on food, accommodation and travel per person. The beeps and buzzing that often keep patients awake won't be a problem at a new Melbourne hospital. It's one of many high-tech solutions a private facility has adopted to ease the pressure on the growing northern suburbs. Stephanie Anderson with the story.
It's a new addition north of the city, bringing 70 private hospital beds, a day centre for cancer care and a range of specialists much closer to home for those in Epping and surrounds.
This northern corridor is one of the fastest growing corridors in Victoria, and the ED next door at Northern is one of the busiest in the country as well. So we see this area as a big growth area that needs more services.
Right now there's no patients at Northern Private Hospital, but come Monday the finishing touches will be complete and the doors opened on a facility boasting some brand new tech.
These monitors are all transportable, so this will carry along the patient journey with you.
What won't follow is this. Because based on patient feedback, the buzzers and beeping are ditched to reduce disruption. Instead, alerts will be sent straight to staff devices.
When you press a buzzer, you have to be within the sound level so that you can hear it. When you press a buzzer here, you'll instantly let the staff know across a multitude of different people.
5 years in the works, this $145 million facility started from scratch and is welcome real estate for the specialists moving in.
This is a purpose-built lab. Everything that you see is designed for good outcomes for our patients.
There's also a physical link to the public hospital next door, so the plan is to relieve some pressure.
We will have a staff member based over at the Northern. Their role will be to identify patients with private health cover that want to come and transfer across to the private hospital.
While the first 4 floors of the hospital are fitted out and ready for patients, this is what levels 5 and 6 look like, left as empty shells so they can be adapted to deliver whatever extra services this community needs in the future.
We could look at a mental health unit, or the other floor would be 35 surgical medical beds. The next stage after that is another building behind us where the car park is, and that's when we would look at intensive care, private ED, maternity services. So we've got a future plan so we can grow as the community demand grows.
Stephanie Anderson, 9 News.
Squeaky Beach has triumphed over shorelines across the country to claim the title of Australia's best beach. Surrounded by Wilson's Promontory National Park, it marks the first time a Victorian beach has claimed Tourism Australia's top honour. The farm in New South Wales and Cockle Creek in Tasmania came in second and third. A dream to become the fastest person to run from one end of the globe to the other is tonight quite a few steps closer. Known as Australia's Forrest Gump, Tim Franklin arrived in Perth today after a mammoth 19,000-kilometre journey on foot. More from Alex Heinke.
5 continents, 17 countries, more than 19,000 kilometres. An around-the-world trip for Aussie Tim Franklin with one catch. He's running the entire thing.
Day 1 team, Tim runs the world. Day 59 done. Gay Legends, day 338.
Averaging more than a marathon a day for the past 427 days. He set off with a world record in sight. He's faced floods and snow.
Got to like 1.5 degrees. Nearly got a sweat on.
Exhaustion and hunger, illness and injury.
I don't get it. Oh.
But the 40-year-old's toughest test was when he found out his father was dying.
I found out that my father had a terminal illness and only had 3 months to live. I made the difficult decision to go home and say my goodbyes to him. He was my hero growing up, and my mentor, and his message of just get out and finish that damn run was the last thing he sort of told me before he passed away.
It knocked him out of world record pace, but it didn't derail his dream. In fact, it fueled the fire and Tim's infectiously positive attitude. To officially run around the world, certain kilometres need to be completed in each continent. After starting in New Zealand, he went coast to coast across the US, South America next, then Spain, through Europe, all the way to the Black Sea. A short stint in Asia before finally arriving down under, landing in Perth. It's the start of the end.
Really excited to be back here in Oz, the last stretch of my run.
7,000 kilometres to go, hundreds of thousands of dollars to raise for charity, and countless fans to meet. Next stage, the south coast of the country, then Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, and finally Brisbane, where his friends and family are waiting.
I really just want to give my mum a big hug, to be honest.
The end of this damn run in sight. Alex Heinke, 9 News.
Well, the Melbourne Hotel has hosted its first ever Palm Olympics, with contestants racing the clock to down chicken parmas for a $10,000 cash prize. In just 10 minutes, 5 groups sweated and toiled their way through more than 3 kilos of schnitzel and cheese at the Crafty Squat pub, but only one pair emerged victorious.
I've been preparing my whole life just for this moment, I think.
Probably go home and lie down for a couple hours and, work it from there, then have a beer or two, I reckon.
Luckily, no one felt the urge to use the designated vomit buckets. That is good to hear. All right, now returning with sport, here's Alicia Muling.
Thanks so much, Dougal. Up next, a young Hawks bid to put his injury headaches behind him. Our exclusive look at CJ's mission in the Middle East. Could a Victorian debut loom as an Aussie star is told to rest up? And extra time heartbreak for the Socceroos.
Intuitive, capable, and above all, intelligent. The Ford Escape is fearlessly designed and makes every day effortless.
Hawthorn young gun Changwath Giath has declared his overseas trip to a world-leading sports medicine practice a success. Finally feeling he has a handle on the cause of his injuries, Giath gave 9 News an inside look into his Doha mission. Braden Ingham reports.
In a league boasting more than 700 players, only a handful glide across the turf like this hawk.
But so far, injury has denied Changwath Giath from taking full flight.
Obviously, being out for the season, it was like, oh, geez, I've got to sort out something here.
The rebounding defender didn't play beyond round 9 last year after battling separate calf, Achilles and groin issues. It forced Hawthorn to think outside the box, sending its young star overseas last month.
We learned a lot about my body. I was in Qatar. I'm one of those guys that I really have to focus on my preparation and focus on little details.
Alongside club physio Andrew Lambart, Giath ventured to Doha's Esparta Clinic, which has previously helped some of the globe's biggest soccer stars.
Analyse me, how I run, how's this one?
Yeah, that's looking really good.
With cameras tracking his every move, the 24-year-old was put through an extensive biomechanics assessment across the 5-day trip.
Come on, strong push, strong pull, all the way up, all the way down.
Under the watchful eye of leading physio Enda King, Giath completed dozens of weird and wonderful tests, all in the effort to future-proof his body.
We found certain parts that I did use a lot and really put a lot of strain on certain parts of my body, and from then it was pretty much just narrowing down on how I can prevent that and not overuse one side.
With plenty of new knowledge, he's back home and thriving in the Hawks pre-season, even trialling as a winger.
Obviously with my running pattern I can get up and down the field as well, and I think it's best suited for my attributes.
Heading into the final year of his contract, the Qatar trip has given Giath confidence his body can finally handle football's brutal toll.
I know my best footy's ahead, and I'm going to do the best I can to just keep getting better and better every day.
Braden Ingram, 9 News.
Travis Head's summer on home soil is over, released from the limited overs squad by selectors in order to refresh. It means Victorians Will Sutherland and Jake Fraser-McGurk are set to make their debuts at the SCG tomorrow. Trent Neese with more.
The Aussie Roadshow departed Melbourne for Sydney without one of its main men. Travis Head told to take a break.
Gone!
It's been a forgettable past week for the South Australian, a king pair at the Gabba, with those struggles following him to the shorter format.
Oh, dropped. Travis Head had so much time.
He'll sit out the final 2 one-dayers and the T20 series in order to be fit and firing for the Tour of New Zealand later this month. It presents Victorians Will Sutherland or Jake Fraser-McGurk the chance to debut at the SCG tomorrow. But they'll have a tough act to follow, after Xavier Bartlett finished with the second best figures by an Australian man in their one-day debut.
Almost feels like it's not real. Yeah, I guess to contribute to a good team wins everything you want to dream of in your debuts.
But he too will be rested, with Aussie selectors calling Josh Hazlewood into the side after their 8-wicket win. Over in Adelaide, Australia's women were unstoppable in their one-day series opener.
Boulder, full, straight.
3 wickets from leg spinner Alana King helping dismiss South Africa for just 105, with the hosts set to cruise to victory. Trent Neese, 9 News.
Meanwhile, Victorian quick Scott Boland has been forced from the field after suffering an innocuous knee injury in the Sheffield Shield. Boland was midway through his 17th over against South Australia when a sharp pain in his left leg hampered his run-up. The Vicks had no trouble cleaning up the tail in his absence.
Now what's happened here?
This is interesting.
Bowling South Australia out for 173. The hosts now 0 for 71 at stumps in reply. The Socceroos Asian Cup campaign has ended in devastating fashion after a dramatic 2-1 loss in extra time to South Korea. It was a night of missed chances for the Aussies, who paid the ultimate price after leading until the 96th minute. Xander Maguire reports.
They had 1 foot in the semi-final, only to be left heartbroken and heading home.
Pure disappointment at the moment. You know, we're 1 minute away from going through.
Craig Goodwin drew first blood with a crisp volley in the first half, and deep into extra time, it looked like it was enough until a 50-50 call went against the Aussies.
Oh, penalty, says referee.
And then the comeback began.
And he powers it into the back of the net.
Sydney boy Lewis Miller the culprit, and in extra time, a dog day became a nightmare for the 23-year-old when he faltered again, this time just outside the box.
Oh, Miller again, clumsy this time.
But Son Heung-min, Ange Postecoglou's golden man at Tottenham, still made him pay.
Oh, it's a brilliant goal.
I put my arm around him and give him a hug and tell him that
these things are lessons in life.
A red card in the 106th minute brought Australia to 10 men, hampering their last gasp effort.
South Korea into the semis.
The Socceroos were flush with opportunities early.
Oh, what a chance!
And could have put it beyond doubt at the death.
Oh, what a chance again!
Leaving them with only themselves to blame.
The chances were there, but we just couldn't get that extra goal to give us that little bit of a buffer.
It was South Korea who Australia defeated to win the 2015 Asian Cup on home soil. 9 years later, emotions spilling over for Sun Heung-min as he delivers revenge. Xander Maguire, 9 News.
And San Francisco punter Mitch Wishnowsky is hoping to make history next Monday by becoming the first Australian to win the Super Bowl. The 31-year-old feels much more comfortable this time round after coming up short in his first attempt in 2020.
It was just a lot of nerves and everything like that, and I'm obviously still some nerves and stuff, but I think I've sort of learnt to deal with them a little more, and I think I'll be able to sort of take in this Super Bowl a little more than last one.
The 49ers are favourites to claim the title, despite facing defending champions Kansas City. And Dougal, that's sport for you.
Another big day, Alicia. Thank you. Well, Maddie returns now with more on the sizzling weather. And are we in for a hot night, Maddie?
Well, Dougal, it's actually going to be quite a beautiful summer's evening. Winds are light, so that allows the cooler air to drop to the ground. So the city's forecast to dip to 16 degrees. But once the sun comes up, the temperature will increase dramatically. I'll have the full Sunday forecast for you next.
Switch on a Daikin Alira X split system with advanced streamer technology to remove more than 99% of harmful indoor air pollutants and surround yourself with cleaner air this summer. Daikin, perfecting the air.
Hello again. It's been a beautiful Saturday since sunrise with picture-perfect conditions for hot air balloons. And under blue skies and light breezes, the city went on to reach 33 degrees. It was quite a cool night with a few suburbs dipping to single figures, then most warmed up into the low 30s. Viewbank rebounded to be the warmest with a top of 35 along with Tullamarine. The cool overnight conditions extended statewide, but the summer sunshine warmed things up very quickly. Most locations through the north reached 35 or 36. In the southwest, Hamilton peaked at 33, and in Gippsland, Sale was one of the warmest spots with a top of 32. There's been dry conditions across most of the country to kick off the weekend, but a low-pressure system in the far north is delivering heavy showers and storms. Tomorrow, the heat will ramp up across Victoria as northerly winds pull down hot air, and those winds will strengthen ahead of an approaching cool change. So we'll have a much cooler Monday, and the low that's in the far north today is expected to move down and deliver showers to Victoria's eastern districts. Tomorrow, Adelaide is also in for a hot day with a top of 36 on the way. Canberra's heading for 35 after reaching 30 today. Hobart will be cooler at 21 with up to 10 millimetres of showers, a top of 32 for Sydney and Brisbane. And Perth is finally getting relief from the heat wave this week with a top of 27 tomorrow. Back home, the heat will be most intense through the northwest of the state with maximums in the low 40s. The Mallee and Wimmera will be under extreme fire danger ratings as well as total fire bans. High fire danger ratings for much of the state and then moderate throughout Gippsland. Wodonga is also heading for 40 degrees tomorrow, Bendigo 38, Ballarat and Hamilton 36, cooler along the southwest coast, and in Gippsland most spots are expected to reach the low 20s, but Warragul is forecast to reach 36. The cool change will move into the southwest during the afternoon, reaching central parts of the state around midnight. Despite the impeding heat, it won't stay too hot across Melbourne tonight, with 16 at Moorabbin, the highest forecast minimum. But gusty northerlies will pick up in the middle of the day, keeping the sea breeze at bay, and there will be widespread maximums of 36 and 37, up to 38 at Moorabbin, 32 at Ferny Creek, and we'll have to wait until midnight for the cool change. Geelong is heading for 32 degrees after an overnight low of 15, a low of 16 for the city. Then it's forecast to hit 38 before the southerly breezes arrive. And then we can expect a run of much cooler days, cloudy and 22 on Monday, 22 again on Tuesday and Wednesday, 23 on Thursday and Friday, back to 22 next Saturday. But our hottest day of summer so far is looming after an overnight low of 16. The city's forecast to reach 38 degrees tomorrow, and it will stay hot until midnight. So the summer heat has been a long time coming, Dougal.
Certainly has been, Maddie. Thank you. And that is 9 News for this Saturday. Deb Knight is along next with the current affair. Enjoy your evening and good night.